Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hello, it's Sunday night again. Yes, GMI, the cheat did pay the bills. It doesn't these days, unfortunately. For a period of time, the cheat did pay the bills, or at least pay for some of the expenditure that I've had this year, to say the least. And actually, it's an interesting topic because I've just been going over that side of things, as I have to do for tax purposes and everything as well. And yes, I wish it had paid a bit more, let's just say. But yes, so anyway, good evening, everyone. I hope you are all safe and well. It is another Sunday night. Can someone tell me we're all working as we should be? Hello, Steve. How are you? Good evening, Mark. Thank you for the info, Mark. I'll have a chat with you. I haven't had a chance to look at stuff properly. I think I'm almost there, but I just haven't been near it. You'll know what I'm talking about. Good evening, GMI. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope everyone has been safe and well. It's been an interesting week. We've got a bit to talk about. And I've also seen some interesting stuff I want to talk about as well. Some really interesting stuff, in fact. MacVision, I hope you're safe and well. Thank you, mate. Good evening. I don't know how to say that. I'm going to go with Jorg. If I'm wrong, I do apologize in advance. Do a Bond villain turn towards the camera, Mr. Butter? So yes, I am sitting side on tonight, or semi on. I need to get the camera right, actually, for the live stream. So not the camera, but I need to go and get 2 more monitors is what I need to go and do, and put one there and put one there, and that way I can look at you guys. The problem I've got is everything is sort of laid out here, but you're there, and if I need to put the camera by there somewhere, actually, is probably the best thing. But yeah, I need to move things around a little bit on the live streams. So I've got the chat in the wrong place. All I need to do is put the chat there. I need a monitor to put the chat there, and everything will be fine. Good evening, Trini. How are you? I hope you're safe and well. Leo, hello there, hello there, hello there. So tonight, guys, we've got some stuff to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit, or maybe a lot, about the pricing of the DJI Mavic 3. Because I keep seeing comments from people saying it's way too expensive. And I don't actually agree with that. I actually think it's priced quite interestingly. And we'll compare it to some other stuff as well, because I think there's an expectation of pricing versus reality. And also, I think DJI have also set the stage before anyone else as well. And we'll talk a bit about Autel, because I've also heard that they have already increased the pricing of these 2 new drones that haven't even been released yet. And I believe that is going to happen. So we'll talk a bit about that too. We're going to talk about the BetaFPV situation this week, because there's been a huge amount of noise around BetaFPV and Express LRS and this module here, and really BetaFPV in themselves. And I just want to sort of talk from my point of view on my experience a little bit, because they did send me this for free. That hasn't influenced me, but I'll also, I think a little bit the community's being a bit unfair. I'm not saying in the past they haven't got things right, but they're certainly trying to put things right as well. And we'll have a look at what they've been saying, because they've been posting loads of stuff in the last couple of days as well. And I think if you're going to throw some stuff at them, you have to throw it at everyone as well. And that's the thing on that. We'll talk about the leaks on the HD0. If you saw the video I put out yesterday, and there's more. We can even look at something else, because Vanova's got in the game and has been sharing a little bit too. And we'll also talk about anything else you guys want to talk about too, and answer any questions you may have along the way as well. Now, as always, guys, if you're new here, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell next to it as well. Give us a like. There's 28 of you, and we've had 5 likes, so hit that button. That helps with the algorithm. It really does. And something else I want to add on tonight's stream is, after this stream finishes, it's going to come offline. And what I'm going to then do is share a link to it on the community page. And the reason I'm doing that is I've been talking to some amazing people, and I've been lucky. I was involved with Sean. Sean invited me on the other day on Geeksvana. If you don't know who Sean is, check him out. Has a really great channel, and he's a proper journalist, not like this stuff that I do. And I've been talking to Sean and some stuff, and I've been talking to some other creators and YouTubers as well, just around some best practices. And one of the big ones is with the live streams especially is not allowing them to stay on afterwards, because it can affect your click-through rate and things like that on YouTube, because it's such a long video. YouTube looks at it and goes, oh, that's a 2-hour video, and people quit it after 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and that's really bad for the channel. So what I'm going to start doing is taking the video offline after the live stream, but sharing an offline link to it on the community page for you guys. So if you want to watch it back, it'll be there. And then I'll be posting live stream clips of it over the next week, 10 days, as I've started to do already. So if you have just come on and you're wondering what happens to the live stream afterwards, that will be the reason. And as always, we'll talk about some stuff, whatever you guys bring up along the way. If you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. I'll try and answer them as soon as I possibly can. As always, super chats are welcome. You can also support the channel via the links to our Patreon. I'd like to thank every single one of our Patreons we've got. We've had a couple more come on board this week. A massive, massive thank you to you, as well as the guys that use Buy Me a Coffee as well. So you guys are going to, I'm going to just do a little thing next week, hopefully, on you guys as well. And I'll talk about that a bit later as well. But yeah, so as always, if you want to support us, there's a link to that as well. And I should do a bit of shilling for the Discord server. Let me just bring it up. It's been a bit quiet this week, and I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of time this week to get involved on the Discord server. However, I do have a Discord. I do creep around the internet. You'll get rid of that, go away. And we do have a Discord server as well, which is this one here. There is a link to it in the stream, where you'll find some fantastic people who talk about stuff, post stuff all of the time, and we've got various things set up for talking about that too. So if you're interested in coming over and seeing it, do check out the link in the description as well. Now, before we get into the subjects, I'll just come back to the chat. Why do I always fail to remember to forget this stream? Bruce, you are quite right. You need to set yourself a reminder not to watch. Good evening, David. I hope you're well. Thank you, GMI. Are the arms weak? Are people saying in the wrong condition? There is some interesting stuff on the Mavic 3, and we'll talk about that. Just ran 2 batteries through my Mavic 3. Very interesting. I hope you are enjoying it, because there is a lot to like about this craft. However, there are some issues as well, and I have come to a bit of a conclusion on it now, not even having flown it at this point yet, but really of who this craft is for. Good evening, Type. I hope you're well. You can add those live streams to a playlist as well. A car channel does it. Yeah, now Sean told me that. However, it wasn't working when I tried to do it, but I need to figure out why that wasn't working. I will add a live stream playlist. I actually have a live stream playlist on the channel, and I have been told that you can add them to the playlist and have them and you'll be able to see them that way. Hopefully one of you guys can check that out for me, actually, and I need to do that. In fact, if someone can check that now, because I have today made all of my previous live streams offline. And there is, let me just go to YouTube, there is a live streams link there already. So if someone could check on the main page for me, on playlists, because I'm gone on to playlists, and let me just customize channel. I've got to go onto there, and I've got to try and find this bit of it, view channel, and I've got to click on then and try and view it as I do have. So all playlists, publicity. I don't think it's not working as I hoped it would for some reason. Customize channel. It's not doing what I expected it to do, unfortunately. Uploads past live streams. So there is a... so do we mean add them... well, I created one called past live streams, I believe. And if I go and put it there, it is this. So if I just go to there and go playlist or home... past live streams. Oh, they are showing, and I've taken them all offline. There you go. It's working. Okay, well, we'll try that on this one. And if someone could ping me a message after it all happens and let me know if it is working, I really would appreciate it. So for the pros, the M3 is a winner? No, Mark. I actually think for the pros, it's the big loser, actually, and that's where I'm at. But we will talk about that in a minute. But we'll talk about price as well. So, as always, guys, if you've got any questions, and I have seen one, will we get canvas mode before Christmas? Anti-gravity? I don't believe we're going to get canvas mode at all. That is where my head is at right now. I have no official information. CADX have said no more. DJI never said anything in the first place. If you've seen my video on canvas mode, that explains the truth of the situation, the actual truth of the situation, and I firmly think we won't have it. DJI have made a wireless like the Rode Go. They have, Bruce, I noticed that. I had heard they were seeding it with reviewers. Some people were asking for more reviews. I did laugh at this comment because someone was asking on a Facebook group about, can we have more reviews? You know, I'd like to see some more reviews of it because there hasn't been many. And the person from DJI replied, who's a very good person nonetheless, don't worry, there'll be more reviews coming up in the next week. But that's just paid reviews. That's just, we've sent it to someone to talk about it. I personally would not go for it right now because it doesn't come with lavs as an option. And for me, if I want wireless ones, I want lavs. If anyone's used the Wireless Go, which I have extensively, here's mine. It's on charge again. Whilst it's very good, it has its issues. And I think the DJI mics, and let's put it up and just talk about this quickly, actually, because this is quite interesting. DJI mic. It's quite a nice little product in some ways and not in others. I hadn't really heard the sound, Bruce. What I do like is the charging base. I really like the fact that it comes with a drop-in charger. So let me just put this up. Let's go on DJI mic. Let's just see if here we go. It comes with a drop-in charger, which I really like. I really, really like the idea of that. I would love to be able to just finish using it, drop it in a charger, and know it's ready to go next time. So Rode, if you're watching, we want this. We want this kind of functionality. However, there's no official lav support. It got lav mic host, but there's no talk of what lavs work or what doesn't, and I'd have to look into it. It does record onto 8 gigs of onboard storage on each microphone individually, which is quite nice. Yes, Bruce, you don't have to activate it. That's probably a first, if I'm honest, for DJI. In a very, very long time, I can recall. In a very, very long time. I think it's nice. I just think, why? Why would you choose it over the Rode? And that's the problem. That's my issue. I love my Wireless Go. Hand on heart, this is a fantastic product, okay? But it has two main flaws for me. Number one, it's never charged when I need it to be. So the battery life isn't great and it falls out of charge very quickly. And B, the power switch on it is horribly finicky. Absolutely horrendous. I really would have wished it just had a slide switch on and off. I don't know, Bruce, do you have problems with yours? But turning mine on and off is a complete pain in the bum. It really, really is. But if I could have a version of this where you could dock it in a station and you had two of them and you could pick one or the other, I would be a happy man. I don't find the audio on these very bad at all. I find them pretty good, but I do use the official lav. And I even washed this lav, okay? This lav went through my washing machine once, and it still works absolutely fine. Mine's fine. I get good. Yeah, I tend to leave it on for hours, though, Bruce, when I'm doing stuff. I tend to be recording for 2-3 hours at a time, and I don't want to turn it on and off. So that's it. But it is an interesting product. I think... I wouldn't mind giving it that LiPo. I would not want it fully charged. Yeah, but DJI's batteries do manage pretty well, to be fair. Why would you use it over the Rode? That's the problem. You know, for me, I could be tempted for the charge base option. I really could. But I'd have to try it, and I'd have to test it, and I'd have to make sure I'm 100% happy with it. what I know is the Rode Wireless Go has only ever let me down once, and that was because I didn't plug the cable in properly. I have never had an actual problem with the Wireless Go, but I will add it is a pig to plug, to turn on. The power connector is horrible on mine. Half the time it refuses to turn on or refuses to turn off. It just doesn't. It's like a PCB button that just doesn't want to work. And yeah, I'd have to see how it performs with the lavs. I really would have to see how it performs with the lavs. Interesting. We're going to have to see how they get on. It's not DJI's core market. What I do think it is, though, is a true movement of DJI moving more into other stuff and not just drones. So, okay, the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is the DJI Mavic 3, and that is the Mavic 3 standard? Not really talking about the Cine yet. We'll talk about the standard first of all, but is the standard version of the Mavic 3 too expensive? Because I've been seeing a lot of comments around the internet, a lot of people talking and saying, you know, this drone is too expensive for what it is. And it brings up some interesting points, because we've got used to cheaper drones in the last 2 or 3 years. The last expensive model DJI released was actually the Mavic 2 Pro. Everything after that has been lower cost models. We've had the Mavic Air 2, we've had the Air 2S, we've had the Mini and the Mini 2. So this has conditioned the market for cheaper models. And now that we've had the release of this Pro model, and let's not pretend it isn't a flagship, because it is, even though there are some fundamental issues here for some people. Not everyone, but some, mostly existing users, and we will add to that on the end. People have felt it is an expensive drone. So I've spent some time looking around, and it's been quite interesting when you start looking into it. So if we just hop over to the desktop, we've got the Mavic 3 standard version. And if we go onto the store, so the pricing of this drone in the US is $2,199 for the standard model without any extras. And then if you go for the Fly More, it's $299. Now, I'm not going to dive into the pricing of batteries a minute. They are expensive, but we have been accustomed to that in recent times. Even the DJI FPV drone battery is expensive. But what I thought I'd do is start looking around and comparing this to other equivalent models from people. So for instance, the big one that everyone talks about is Skydio, you know, and if we look at where does it sit compared to the other products on the market. And whilst Skydio's starting price is $949, actually their full cinema kit is $1799, reduced from $2,199. So yes, it's a little bit cheaper, but it is around the same. Now, it should be added that the Skydio does come with 3 batteries for that price. That should be added. However, it is cheaper, but it wasn't at that point, and this is based on current pricing. If we then hop over to the likes of X Adventure, for instance, who are a big Autel dealer, we can then look at the current price of the Evo 2 Pro, which is their higher model right now, which again is $1,795 for the current model, or you've got the Pro Rugged bundle, which is coming in at $2,095 with a hard case. Now, it is clear the Mavic 3 pricing is expensive compared to these. It is higher compared to these models we're looking at here. But you do have to take into account that that isn't the full story. That isn't everything to take into account with regards to pricing compared to other brands, because none of these other brands have increased their pricing as a result of the current situation we find ourselves in with the global supply shortage. So this pricing, for instance, on Skydio, we've got here, is a current reduced pricing and isn't truly reflective of where pricing may end up. Now, I actually think personally, getting that bit off the screen, I think the pricing of the Mavic 3 Standard is about bang on. I don't feel it's too expensive. I don't feel it's overpriced. I actually think the pricing is exactly where we're going to find these drones to end up. Because the reality is the pricing of all components has gone through the roof. Whether it be plastics, electronics, chipsets, everything has become more expensive. And this is really the first company to move on this. And actually, I've already seen comments from people telling us that the pricing on the new Autel drones is going to increase as well before they've even released. And if I have a look on here, I don't know if this pricing has been changed yet on X Adventure. If we just have a look, because the current pricing for the Evo Lite and the Evo Nano is currently 1329, but there has been a memo sent to dealers that it is going to increase. And we are going to see a big price increase happen across the board. And whilst we haven't seen it here yet, you got to take into account we're $1,400 for these models, which are not up there with the big ones. So I actually don't feel the Mavic 3 is overpriced. I do feel that DJI have done some cost cutting on it. When you look at the remote controller, again, I've made my thoughts, and I actually was on Sean's live stream the other day talking about the remote controller situation, and actually I got a bit more info on the remotes now as well. We're understanding things a bit more with the RC Pro, and I actually think the pricing isn't bad, although I think DJI have still had to cut some cost corners, and that has been on the remote control, if not anywhere else. So I do think from a pricing point of view, it isn't expensive. However, that isn't to say this drone is for everyone. And it is clear the Mavic 3 has really split the community two ways, of people who love it and people who hate it. And I've begun to notice a bit of a pattern on this, and that pattern generally is that most existing long-term pro users are not happy with what they've been delivered with. So the people who have been used to flying Mavic 2 Pros, Mavic 1s, Inspire 2s, Inspire 1s, the people who have been pro in the game for a long time, or semi-pro, or have been around long enough to see these things develop and happen, are the people who are quite disappointed in what they've been seen and given. So for instance, we've got what appears to be an all-new drone, which it is, but it's missing a lot of the features people expect to have. And yes, DJI have out and out said they will be coming. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them will be coming. But there's a lot of workflow that just doesn't work. And I keep seeing the same issues time and time again being posted, especially on the Cine model, is that the workflow on that SSD just does not work for a pro user. It's taking about 20 to 25 minutes to offload a full SSD, and you have to have a fully charged battery in it to do that. And the data rates aren't brilliant, even in ProRes, and the benefits are just not necessarily there versus the hassle factor. I'm not saying it's not good, but that is a comment I keep seeing time and time again. And the workflow for a pro user to buy this craft, fill that SSD up, is then having to have a spare fully charged battery while you offload the data, because it will not charge the battery from your PC whilst offloading the data. And that is where I'm seeing all of the comments. Now, it is interesting because you're getting people who are upgrading from like the Air 2S and the Airs or even Mavic 2s and really liking what they see on it. And there is no question that 4/3 camera is doing a very nice job. But the benefit of that over, say, the Mavic 2 Pro is not necessarily warranted for those users in the increase in price. And that's what I'm seeing from guys on it. You know, and I'm seeing it everywhere. RC groups, we're seeing it across the board. And look, there's some guys in RC groups who are those who've been around a long time, will know me on there and many others. And these are proper good people who know what they're doing all day long, use these crafts professionally, and they just feel the issues don't outweigh the benefits. Now, I think DJI have done something here, which I think this is very DJI, actually. I'm not saying anything's bad, but what I feel is that this craft has basically no real DNA from the previous models. And it's really just, again, a whole new team of people with a whole new group of people building it, testing it, flying it. Really not aimed at pro users. I think this drone is really designed for YouTubers, even the ProRes one. I think this drone has been designed for people who will put up with the issues that are missing from a pro workflow because they really don't care about that. Whereas the pro users who use these aircraft to make money on a daily basis are just looking at this going, why? Why do I have to change what I do to fit into this workflow? Because that's just not what I need, you know? So, you know, the overall comments I've seen are the image quality on the main camera is very, very good. Although some of the footage I have seen on the SD card footage, H.264, is struggling, and it's always going to. It just can't handle that much data. H.265 looks better, but it's not perfect. They are using appears to be the H6 CPU again, like in the Mavic Air 2S. That appears to be the case from the information we've seen, alongside the P1 for OcuSync. The flight time is fantastic. The noisy performance benefit is really good. It's so much quieter, but the workflow becomes difficult. Now, where I think this ends up is if you've got money to burn and you're looking for an upgrade, there is no question the Mavic 3 is an upgrade. It is an upgrade. If you don't use many of the stuff, if you don't use smart shots and stuff like that, it's not a problem for you today. If you do and you're happy to wait for them. But I have still heard, and I don't know how true this is, it will not have waypoints support. And I've heard that is correct, but I just don't know how accurate and true that is. So it is interesting, but I don't feel it's overpriced. But I do expect drone prices to go up quite substantially in the next 12 months across the board. And I think others will carry their pricing more up to this in the near future as well. And that's where I think it is. Catching up on the comments. Why would you need such an expensive drone for YouTube, though? It's going to butcher any footage you upload to it anyway, so why not get something cheaper? Yeah, and you've got to take into account the wow factor for people. Oh, I've got the latest product. And a lot of people want that. I do feel, for the first time in quite a long time, that we're now at the stage where we're heading for TikTok with DJI, which is probably start skipping a release. For a very long time, there was a good benefit to be had on the upgrades. However, we've peaked, and I think probably the Mavic 4 for many Mavic 2 users will be a great upgrade. But not everyone. Matty's Drone World, good evening, how are you? None of the DJI drones on the fly up have waypoints, unfortunately. You got to download third-party apps. Yes, and they all had to have SDK support, and that is the current problem. I'm still astonished at the amount of features missing on this new drone still. And I don't mean even in the app. There's so much still missing. I would love to try it. I really came this close to ordering one today. Hand on heart. I was looking at Amazon and thought I could return it. I was that close. I'm still looking to work with the dealer on trying to get my hands on one to have a proper review. But look, the reality is right now, I am in the middle of winter and it's just the rush for me isn't there right now. I'd love to get my hands on it today and make content, but for me, the rush isn't there because I could end up having it for 2 weeks without even being able to fly it with the weather we have at the moment. But I came very close. I did come very close. 2025, I do think it'll be a few years off. I do think it'll be a few years off. I really do. I really do. It's not in the middle of winter yet. Get yourself a couple of months for that. It's not getting good now, Bruce. So that's my thoughts on the Mavic 3. I don't think it's overpriced. I've also heard comments. The gentleman, well, how does it fly in standard mode? I'm hearing it's very fast, but people are saying to me it flies like a pig, and I don't know how true that is. I really don't know how true that is. A2S, you know, I've still got the Mavic 2 Pro. I flew my Mavic 2 Pro this week. For those of you who are on the Discord, let me put this up just to show you. For those on the Discord, this was one evening this week. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Darwin Award contender right here. For those who can see. Yes, that is, I was flying some batteries down internally. And I just left it hovering there. So Darwin Award contender here, guys. This really is. You know, what could possibly go wrong flying it in a small enclosed space about 2 foot from me? Not a bad idea at all in any shape or form, is it? It really wasn't. But to be fair, they fly so well. You know, the object sensing and the internal sensing is so good on them. It'll just sit there. It won't move. It won't move. That's interesting. So I wonder if that user is just someone who's not used to DJI drones. He's put a comment on the M3 forum. He's just saying this is good, this is bad, and he says, he said in standard mode it flies like a pig. You know, DJI is. Perhaps they've tamed it more than people are used to in the standard modes. Is that what it is? I have seen some comments on the arms being thin and fragile. I think it's just the way it is. They must have a spaceship. Yeah, it was interesting when I saw today on Facebook. And I was just like, okay, I'll see if I can find the post. And I was like, okay. Doesn't freestyle well, Bruce. No, it doesn't freestyle well at all. Let me just see. There we go. There's the group. Let me just see if I can find the post. The problem is at the moment, you have to be careful what you say online about this drone because everyone comes on and attacks you and calls you either anti-DJI or something like that. You know, look, it's not perfect. I'm seeing a lot of good people. Boy, does the camera stick out further than I want it to. The gimbals are expensive as hell to change. Yeah, that's going to be a downside. That is going to be and look, I'm really disappointed with the lack of features on the standard remote as well. I really am. We have found out some new stuff this week about the RC Pro and the Mavic 3 as well. Some stuff in the background. Some of the hackers are looking into it and stuff. And it appears to be still running the P1 for OcuSync, the same chipset in all the other DJI drones, the same chipset in the FPV as well. Although they're using 2 SoCs in the craft for video recording rather than one. The RC Pro is using an upgraded version of the rocket chip, but it is still lead core based, just a newer version, basically. And yeah, that's on the technical side. I was just trying to see this person's. Did he remove it? I still think the gimbal cover looks a mash. You don't want to play any games with your Mavic 3? No. Someone's on about returning it due to connection issues, which is interesting. I saw someone talking earlier about lens flare is quite poor on it or quite bad, and I don't agree with that. Lens flare is a reality of cameras. Now, it is inevitable that if you're going to put that big a sensor on that smaller lens, there's probably quite a few elements, and lens flare is going to be a thing if you're going to fly it into sunlight. But it's unfair to say that it's bad drone because of lens flare. All drones have lens flare. All lenses have lens flare. It's just the reality of how that manifests on each one. And it is going to be noticeable, especially on a very small lens with a large sensor. It's just going to be the case. See you later, Repelin. Look after yourself. I was just trying to see. He put a picture up. So I was going to see, and I thought the lens flare wasn't terrible. It was on the Mavic 3 group on Facebook. I can't see it. But yeah. So that's it really with the Mavic 3. Here and now. I still haven't tried one. I do know the live view image quality is outstanding. That is what's blowing people away. Is it worth spending it over the Mavic 2 Pro? Because the Mavic 2 Pro is very good as well. And my boy was flying my Mavic 2 Pro the other day. He was having fun with that too. Just trying to see if I can find the post on the lens flare. Oh, it might have been on one of the other ones. Let me just see. I actually commented on it, so... here it is. Flight impressions. Okay, so this is handling. This is what users said. This is on the Facebook group, so it's what he's posted. Flight characteristic: power. The drone can move. It's got respectable vertical climb, enough power to move when you need it. Handling: I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. During flight, normal and sport mode, it handles like a walrus on ice skates. It lacks agility. Nimble isn't the word. You would never associate it. I feel like DJI can, hopefully will improve the flight in performance. Ideally, I would like it to handle like the Air 2, the Air 2S. It's a bit sluggish and a bit overcompensating when changing direction during acceleration. So quite interested on that. Noise, camera, main camera is everything I expected. Very good. 7.2, we know about that as well. So yeah, that's all common stuff, isn't it? Where's the person that commented on? I wonder if he's deleted his post. I wonder he has. I think the person's deleted his post because it should sound like that. So, yeah. So that's it on that one. Took some video. Hunter's Blazer. Needs color grade. Okay. So catching up on the chat for 2 minutes before we move on to the next one. Lead footage. Later. See you later on, my friend. Stay safe wherever you are. Facebook, who believes anything they read on Facebook? Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's all bad. I really don't think it's all bad. But I am seeing a lot of proper pro users just going, nah, it's not for me. I think this drone has been made completely out of the norm of the other models, in the sense of completely independently with a new team of people with no care from what they've done in the past, and they've just started again. And that's what I think they've done. So. Okay, so the next subject we're going to talk about, and that is the news and info from HD0 around the 1-watt VTX. Now, I might be a little bit to blame for this, and I am going to take a tiny bit of credit. We were talking on the HD0 page, and I baited Carl into up in his leak game. And then he did, which is really good. So thank you, Carl. I do appreciate it. I'll take a small amount of credit onto that one for getting it out, because I did bait him, and I basically said, compared to DJI, HD0 needs to up its leak game. I actually said I'm more than happy to leak anything if they send it over to me. 1,000 1 watt, 1,000 milliwatts. So it's the 1 watt. So we've had a bit of a leak on it, and I did put a video up on this yesterday, so I'm not going to spend too long, but we do have a bit more to look at as well. So this was Carl sharing, let's make it full page so you guys can see it. This was Carl sharing his quick highlight of it. The board is 40 by 40 with heat sinks either side by 30 by 30 mounting. I hate it. Facebook does that. Now, if we look, what we have is some stuff we can talk about. So, for instance, we've got UFL antenna connector with the screw holes for protection. We've got, moving around to the other side, there looks to be no camera port, but we do have the firmware update port and the harness connector on that side as well. And then on the other side, you can't see is the MIPI connector for the camera, which is on this side. You can't quite see it, but it's over there. Oh, actually, on that side, I might have seen the camera port as well. Let's pause. Oh, there's a little white thing there. That might be the camera port. Actually, I missed that the first time. So we've had that. Now, after this, we've had a bit more people get involved, including Mr. Vanover himself. So if I scroll down a little bit further, and Alex posted that picture there, showing it in the back of a frame. Actually, it's a video, not a picture. Let's put it up. Very short video, nonetheless. But if we just pause it there, you can see we've got the ports on the side. We've got the UFL. Now, what's interesting here is the antenna connectors here. That looks like the firmware update port. So has he got the cable connector on that side there with the camera on that side? So what you're going to have is the main output harness on the side of the unit from the looks of it. Rather than, because you've got the antenna this side, the MIPI over this side, and then the harness. And what it looks like is Vanover's taped up over the harness to get it to there. Now, I hadn't spotted that until now, but that's very interesting. But we can see that. And we then have another picture from Anthony Riviere, who's been posting stuff. And we've got this one here, which shows, again, a bit more. And what we can see now, and almost it's hidden. But what you can see is, I think, there on the image. So let's go in. We've got our UFL with the plate over the top. We've got our firmware update, our I/O there, and then what looks to be the MIPI, and I reckon there then is the camera controller port. Now, as I've said, the sizing on this is 40 by 40 by 30 mounting. We don't have weight. We don't have anything else yet on it. All we have is this information, but we are starting to see some more stuff leak on it. I hadn't spotted before the fact that that harness is on the side. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, there has been some interesting comments on my group on this from people sort of saying about the size being a bit big, and some people saying they would have preferred to have had a double stacked version rather than a single stacked version. But the problem with the double it comes with issues in itself. But a couple of people would have said they would have preferred a double stacked, more like the Vista, and with that sort of layout. But we're going to have to see. At 40 by 40, it isn't the smallest, but it will still go into a lot of frames. We're going to have to see how it goes. The performance, I believe, is good. I don't know how good, but I am hearing the performance is good. I wish that, yeah, that's what a couple of people have said, GMI. They wish they'd have gone 20 by 20 like the Vista and stacked it. And perhaps that's feedback for Carl on maybe a version 2 or even an alternative version of it. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see. But it's coming. It's not too far off. There's plenty of cooling, as you can see. We have the heatsink. It has enough range to get to the scene of the crash, as Bruce says. It does. But we're getting there. So it is good. We're starting to see things move along. Quite like the red. But it is going to stick out on some frames. As Peppermint quite rightly says, you're never going to please everyone. You are never, ever going to please everyone. That's for sure. It should go in the back of most stuff. I think it'll be okay. I think the bigger issue for people will be the 30 by 30 mounting for frames rather than the 20 by 20 to be able to screw it in. But a TPU mount will be fine. I'll probably put it in a TPU mount around the outside with airflow to allow it to go through, just like a skeleton mount from TPU. When it comes out, that's probably what I'll do with it. This looks like the same size as the Solo VTX by Rush. Yeah, it could be. Run it. Please, everyone. That's the problem, and that is the issue. But it's certainly coming along. Hot glue the damn thing in. Let's just hope it doesn't melt it, Bruce, because we don't know what the temperatures are going to be like. I have heard it's going to be up to 1 watt of output. But that will be based on temperature. What I don't know is how its output works, how variable it is. How is it like? Does it vary it down based on temperature, or does it go 1 watt, 750, 500, etc., etc.? If you know what I mean. That's the bit I don't understand yet, and it's going to take some time to find out. And I'm in the process. I am trying to find, and someone out there will help me actually. I am looking for some help from you guys because I am looking to buy one of the Immersion RC power meters, one of the version 2 ones. If you don't know what it is one of these. Let me bring it up. It is this device here, the Immersion RC. Oh, let me get my camera off. Sorry. Let me turn it off. There we go. The Immersion RC Power Meter 2. These appear to be out of stock everywhere, and I do not know why. I cannot get one anywhere. If anyone knows of one, if anyone has one they want to sell me, I will be more than happy to pay money for it. If you do have one of these and you don't need it, please do let me know. I have found a few in Australia, and I may end up just buying that. I don't mind a used one. If I can get one, I'll pay for it. I just want one. I have found someone selling them in Australia on eBay. I just can't find it. I just cannot find it anywhere. No stock at all. Newbie Joan I got one last month. Should we check out Newbie Joan? Do they ship to the UK? They are like Rocking Horse Poo. I am trying to find one of these guys. If anyone, it's like I was like, oh, I remember that, and I was like, oh, I'll pick one of them up. Oh God, wrong button. Let me go back to put that back on. There you go. I was looking around and I just can't find. Let's try Newbie Drone, shall we? Have they got a search? I'm just going to pull. Sorry, guys, that was just a bit of a sneeze from me there. Is the audio back on? I can't tell. Yes, it is. Sorry about that. I have, but measuring RF is a little bit more complicated on a spectrum analyzer than it is an RF power meter. Measuring... Check eBay for 8,000 RF power meter. Are they accurate, BB? I use one of the Chinese OLED versions with an attenuator. Check eBay. Right, let's just have a look if they've got one. So, do Newbie Drone have a search feature? There we go. Out of stock. Maxter Drone, never heard of them. Where are they? Let's have a look. If they have one, I'll buy it now. It's that simple. In stock. Hello. Add to cart. Right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, you're going to have to take a commercial break. There was a moan about the accuracy. Just put your tongue on the SMA. Euros, check out. Who are Maxter Drone? Where are they based? Does anyone know? It's just easier to measure it than with the spectrum analyzer. Does anyone know where Maxter Drone are based? Are they US? Are they UK? Are they Europe? Who are they? Spain. Answer is simple. The product has discontinued. Yeah. I'm guessing it's because accuracy is in the ballpark. Yeah, I think that's a fit. And it'll always be because, look, measuring RF accuracy on a pulse signal, for instance, isn't easy. So if you're measuring RF on a radio, there's always accuracy differences you have to take into account. It's never as simple as just going, yes, yes, that's correct, and using it. But I've been looking for one, the El Cheapo version. Sorry, guys, I just want to get this done now so I can actually make sure I've got one, because that is still cheaper than getting one over from Australia. I don't want to create an account. Order as a guest. Do they take PayPal, I wonder? Give me a second. Continue. No. I haven't even got my wallet up here, so I hope they take PayPal. I pay a lot of stuff via PayPal. Local pickup, no. UPS, and they're charging for UPS, but I'll go with it. Worldwide standard. Worldwide Express Saver is dearer than Worldwide Standard. Interesting. Yeah. Hey, pay with PayPal. They charge more for PayPal. That's nice of them. I don't care. I'm using it. I agree to the terms. I like PayPal because it just works. Order with obligation to pay. Commercial break. Show us your... Oh, they got PayPal. Brilliant. I like PayPal because you can just whack it through. And yeah, Spain's good. It's better than Australia. I was a bit concerned of ordering one from eBay in Australia, I'll be honest. I was a bit concerned because that takes a long time. We're done. Sorted. I love you guys. The fact that someone was able to put it, you cover the, watch them pull the, you cover the PayPal fees though. Yeah. Yeah, they did. They did on the PayPal. I find PayPal easier because it's just linked to the bank accounts and it's all done. Your order has been sent. Brilliant. Mission power. I did find a version 1 on the internet, but yeah, I'm not expecting it to be 100% accurate. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. You know, measuring RF is a complicated thing. But what I am looking for is to be able to just do some verification, really, more than anything. Australia. There's some on eBay in Australia if anyone's looking for some. But the annoyance is I was searching on Google and that never came up. So thank you guys. Really do appreciate that. You lot are amazing. It's always good when that works out. All 75 of you. Check out mailbox. It might have arrived already. It's Master Drone. Cool, cool, cool. Annoying though, they didn't show up on Google. That's why you can still find them there, because they didn't show up on Google. Okay. On FPV Market. Who's FPV Market? Not found them either. Who are they? Let's have a look at them as well quickly before we move on to talk about Express LRS and BetaFPV. Oh, FPV Market as well. Yeah. Cool. That was a pretty good price as well. Can you make a video compared to a proper measuring device. It's a bit complicated. So measuring RF on a spectrum analyzer is extremely complicated because you've got to take into account the resolution bandwidth. So, for instance, when you're measuring, you should be measuring only the signals in the resolution bandwidth. You have to make sure that the resolution bandwidth is about double the carrier width. And it does get very, very complicated. However, I am trying to find out a good way of doing it, because you've got to take into account a spectrum analyzer. You're looking at your noise floor, which might be minus 70 dBs, for instance, and then your signal might go up to, let's say, minus 40 dBs on the scale. Okay. However, that doesn't mean, let's just say it went from minus 70 to 0 dB, because 0 dB is equivalent of 1 milliwatt of power estimated. But let's say you went from minus 70 to 0 dB. So your brain would go, well, that's 70 dB of gain, but that isn't 70 dB of gain, because yes, you're going up 70, but that's not how you calculate it, and it's not accurate in that way. And you have to use a special RF detector in the spectrum analyzer to do it. And whilst the unit I've got can do it, and there is an additional block that comes into play, that because it's like a block system, and I am speaking to Spectrum on it, and I'm hoping they might give me access to that. Spectrum, if you can give me access to that, I'd be a happy man. But it is complicated. Whereas these power meters use in many ways are far more accurate, because they just use an RF detector, a power detector, to be able to measure the signal. And it's a complicated, horrible mess of understanding how the difference is. I can show on a spectrum analyzer very easily the power level. Spectral density is the issue as well. There's so much that comes into it in a spectrum analyzer. Many spectrum analyzers have a dedicated RF measurement option. It's just not as simple as seeing the signal on the display. And let me just show this, actually, because I can show you what I mean on this. So if I just go into my drive a second, use a light bulb. Let me just go on to my drive and my space scratch disk. Scratch disk H, scratch disk 2. Let me just find what I did with them. RF. I have some RF files here. I'm just trying to find somewhere. Where have they vanished to? Let's go into Mad's drive, and I'll show you what I mean on this before we get on to the next subject. It's quite complicated, and some of it is well above my head as well. I'll be honest with you, well above my head. Tech archive, revolve video, radio systems. Here we go. Let me just find the right video. Okay, so that's not a good one. Let's find another one. No, I'm just trying to find a. Okay, so let me put this full screen to show you guys a minute. So here we've got a carrier being viewed. So what we're looking at this is probably DJI FPV, if I'm correct. Just playing this video. This is a live DJI FPV carrier. So the noise floor here is, I can't quite see on this video, is 65 dBm. Okay, minus 65 dBm. Okay, which is the noise floor here. And you could argue that this carrier is topping out at about 50 dBm, roughly. I could fire it up live and show you that. So you're going from 65 dBm noise floor here, which is at this point here, but it isn't this point. You could argue it's at this point here. So you've got like a 20 or 30 dB difference in signal, but that isn't the straight RF power, because it's, you could look at that and go, well, that's from minus 20 dB to minus 65 dB to minus 50 dB. So that's a difference of 15 dB, but it isn't. So it all gets very, very messy. And I'm not the best person to explain that bit of it. That's to say the least. So a power meter will be easier. But I am hoping to be able to show some stuff on this anyway. And you're measuring antenna versus all stuff. It gets messy. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is some of the noise around BetaFPV this week and Express LRS. Now, I put out my review on this module. This is the micro from BetaFPV this week. I know JB has put his video out. He's put 2 videos out, actually, has JB. Let me just put my channel up. So I'll just show you my channel. So it's here. It's this video here where we take a look. God, we got a video. Sorry, we got an ad. It was this video where I showed you guys the module. I gave you an overview of it. I showed you its features, its capabilities. Talked about some of the issues that I have with the module. Talk about some of my concerns. And I went through the whole thing, and it's quite a long video. It came out to over nearly 20 minutes, actually. I was surprised how long it came out because there was a lot to talk about on this module, and I am actually really happy with this video. It's had poor views, but I think I have covered everything on this other than the RF power level, which I want to talk about. And that's one of the reasons I want the meter. And we go through it. We take a look inside. So we talk about the USB-C issue. See there, I had to shave my USB-C down to get it to fit. Mine wouldn't fit without it. It was something I had. We tore the module apart. Let's just get through. Actually, sorry, before that, I talked about the fact that the button does kill the RF output, and I'm not sure if I was the only person to find that first, or don't really find it first, but I brought it up on the Express LRS group, and then everyone was like, "You are kidding me." I'm not sure if I was the only person that tried that. I didn't notice if anyone else mentioned it before me, and if they did, I do apologize. But it was just part of my normal suite of tests. I was just doing the tests and working it through. We then took the module apart and had a look inside. And you know what? It's not a bad module. It's not built the best in the sense of the cooling solution is open for debate, okay? Because for those who didn't see the review and you haven't seen it, so the fan is blowing air onto the PCB here. The main RF module is on the back side of this PCB. So there's no real airflow other than through these holes here and down here going through to the actual RF module that's located on the back of the board here under this metal can with the RF output for the antenna. So there was talk around, the RF design isn't optimal, and I will 100% agree it isn't from a cooling point of view. The air is being blown onto the PCB here, the RF module's on the back. But we do have to take into account, does it really require direct cooling? That is the question mark on it. So anyway, in the review, we talked about it. I went on, talked about everything. And yes, we will now talk about it. Failsafe, I'm going to show you it. And so I held my video back for a week. That was the first thing I did. My video was virtually ready to go last week. It was ready to upload. I had made some tweaks afterwards, but it was ready to go. But I started seeing some more comments, so I held it back. So obviously, JB talked about it and gave his thoughts on it and spoke about his problems, and then put a second video out talking about its RF behavior, which, okay, I don't really see any problems there around the heat. Now, I tested this, as I said in the video, I left this on for hours on the bench, and I have no concerns on heat on this module. Yes, it gets warm, and JB has seen a power reduction after 20 minutes, but we have to be careful here that none of the other modules don't do that as well, because are we testing all of them the same? And something I'm going to do, and one of the reasons I want this RF power meter, is I want to line up all of the modules I get and do the same testing. Test them at 1 minute, test them at 20 minutes. And do they all drop in RF output as time goes on? Because that's something we need to understand. Is that just a behavior? Is it specific to that module? Is it going to happen on this one on 250 milliwatts? Because that's the maximum output on that. So it is something we need to understand. Is it specific to these, or is it direct? Now, there's been a huge amount of criticism laid at BetaFPV over this module. And I will be honest, I don't feel all of it is fair, because yes, it has some quirks, and one of them is fundamentally bad. However, upgrading to 2.0 solves that. But the module itself is actually very good, in my opinion. The plastics are fantastic. It's a nice, solid module. Yes, the USB-C is a silly design. And that button turning the RF off is frankly stupid. However, we do have a solution for that. Now, BetaFPV have sort of gone on a bit of the defensive, but talking to the community about this. And I want to show with you what they've been saying, because they have gone out and said, right, look, we know there has been some feedback and we've taken it on board and we're going to do something about it. So BetaFPV, Anna from BetaFPV has put a post up. They've done two, actually. The first is this one here, talking about the changes they're going to make. So they intend to make the area larger around the USB-C port. They have already confirmed they're going to do that, whereas before it was 11.1 mil by 6.5. They're going to open it up from 6.5 to 13.5, although I do wonder, it looks like it's going to be bigger, so it should be fine with those connectors, which will give it better support for USB cables, USB-Cs. They go then on to talk about the black case model and the white case, and there's a black model coming, which will have 1 watt of output as well. You've got the white case version, which is going to be 500 milliwatts. And they also posted up STL files for the module for people if they want it as well, which I think is quite cool. It's a nice thing to do. It's quite good. I like that. That's a nice bit of support for it as well. So they first of all fed back on that to say, look, we're going to make some changes and improve it there. The second post they've put up is this one here, where they start talking around a few other things, and this is around the temperature on the modules. So first of all, we'll bring it up. The 500 milliwatt, they've done it under a thermal camera. They talk about 34.9 degrees on the case cover after 30 minutes. The temperature at the LED at 57.2, and the temperature then on the module at 48.7, and the SX1280, which is the power amplifier, and there. So they're showing the temperatures on there. They're then showing the 1000 milliwatt version, the 1 watt, where it does have a heatsink on board, and again 60 degrees on the power amplifier, 64, and it does have a heatsink on this, and it does seem a newer design. I can't quite tell if the module is still on the back, because if we look at this, right, so they're looking at the back, we've got a board there pinned, that's the module itself, and that's the solder points on that module. And then on this one, no, I think the module's under that side on this one. They've moved the module down and they've moved the LED location, and it looks like they've put the LED, RGB LED looks to be on the heatsink now, or in the middle of the heatsink. We're not sure of what the design on this is yet. Is the module still on the back? Because it does show the back on the RFPI. Yeah, so it does look like they've still got the RF module on the back, actually. And what they've done is got a heatsink with a cutout for the LED. So have they just fitted a heatsink to it? Is that all they've done? I don't know. And then they go on to say the temperatures as measured and the way the fans blow in, and they talk about that as well. And then they do go on to mention about their receivers and the 52 megs crystal oscillator that they're using, and the fact that they're using higher, bigger crystal oscillators that are more stable, that offer improved errors compared to others, because there was some issues on some of their equipment where it wouldn't work with all other Express ELRS equipment. However, they basically said that they've made some changes, and when you go to the post, they actually talk about down here, they use a 20 PF loading capacitor on the 52 megs oscillator, And what they go on to say is that they've changed it to a 2 to 8 PF capacitor, loading capacitor on the oscillator, which gives improved performance and it reduces the errors. And they go on to say that their errors with the capacitor is down to 16 ppm when loading at 2.2, which is well below 40 ppm, which is where the issues are. So they've put out a huge amount of information, and they are going to do another post talking about the button issue as well. They have said they're going to do that. Now, I do want to just say, I think you have to congratulate BetaFPV for coming out with the feedback. You know, they are addressing this. They are talking about it. They are trying to improve things. Now, there is an argument to be said. If a lot of this had been addressed up front with the devs of Express LRS, these issues may not have ever have happened. Some of the issues are derived from the fact that they are doing stuff other people aren't doing, and they forked their own version of the Express LRS firmware, and that's what's running on the module. The fact the RF turns off isn't acceptable when the button is pressed, because one person today showed my exact concern with this. Let me just find the post. He was the exact reason when I found this was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Because on his radio, he has, let me just find it. He has the bar on the back. Let me just find it. The stand, the kickstand on the radio, and the kickstand is pressing the button. And this was my number one concern with the way that button is set up. Let me just see if we can find the post. It's got to be here. Why can you never find stuff when you're searching? Here it is. Found it. Okay. So, just to put this full screen, let me just undo the desktop audio. I'll do that. You guys will see it again. Let me just refresh it. So the stand is pressing on the button exactly. You know, so that's clearly a problem. Let's be realistic. There's no hiding from that. Whilst I was flying, I'd be worried about Ron pressing the button while you were flying. It's clearly not good enough. You know, look. But flash it with 2.0 RC2, the problem goes away. In 2.0, it will have support. You just lose the button functionality for now. And hopefully in 2.1, the button functionality are coming back. I did see a post from one of the Express LRS devs saying that they're looking... I think he's got button functionality working better than Beta have done. Some of this is caused by BetaFPV running ahead and trying to deliver something that no one else has done. A lot of it is caused probably by them not really communicating with the Express LRS devs. But the reality is this is going to happen across the board. And I think it's unfair to single them out alone as being the problem when many other manufacturers are not in communication. I do know that Happy Model have a lot of communication with the BetaFPV devs, and they try to get feedback, but they've had problems early on as well. So let's not hide away from that fact too. So it isn't great. It is what it is. I really do like the module, though. I have to say, I do like it. I want to try the Namimno, if you haven't seen, but they this week have recalled their module. You know, let's be realistic. The Namimno is not without issues neither. They have put a post up this week saying, due to an issue with their module, let me just put this up as well. Due to a flash OLED GTX design defect, our team have noticed that the FTDI chip unexpectedly interferes with the signal transmission between the ESP8285 and the ESP32 chip. The backpack functionality basically won't work. Now, this module doesn't have backpack functionality, so don't worry about it. It's not in there. However, the Namimno does. Now, if you're going to get one of these and you don't want the backpack functionality, then go for it. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. Nothing to worry about. Where's the, let me just find it. It's that one there. So don't worry about it. If you don't want the backpack functionality, it really is not an issue. But if you did want the backpack functionality and you've bought one, then you may need to speak to them because they're going to have to do a slight redesign. And that's the 900 megs version there. Yeah, it is a bit of a shame that we've had this. But we're going to have to see. So it's early days. Look, we're seeing these issues in Express ELRS. This is the nature of a project like this. JB spoke about it a bit as well, and it's an interesting conversation on, does bad hardware affect the reputation of Express ELRS? And the reality is this is nothing new. We've had it with Betaflight, we've got it with ArduPilot, we've got all of these other open source systems. Hardware is always going to be the Achilles heel in the sense of it's always going to be heavily dependent on what the hardware manufacturers do, and problems around that will result because they don't communicate with the devs or they don't do their thing. The module isn't bad. Don't think the module is crap, because it isn't. I actually think it's a decent module. I like the plastics. I think it's okay. I don't have any complaints other than the bad software implementation. I don't even have a complaint with the cooling. Whilst not optimal, how many laptops are made optimally? How many anything was designed? It can always be better. So whilst we can sit here and say, oh, that's not cooled optimally, this isn't cooled optimally either. So you can't throw it just at them. You've got to look at it. You know, that isn't cooled optimally because it doesn't have a fan in it or a heatsink. So, you know, everything has its room for improvement. So that's the score with that. That's the score with BetaFPV. I will say I've had their flash module under the microscope and I like it. I really quite like their module. I'll give you guys a bit of a sneak peek of that now, actually. I have the review coming up on their flash module, which is their one which has the built-in RF amplifier. Let me just get this up. And the build quality on this is actually very good. I have no complaints with it at all. Let me just mute. Oh, let me just mute it because I don't want to hear my voice. The overall, I damaged it there, so ignore that. That was me taking a wire off it. But let's just get over here. When I actually put the module under the microscope, the overall build is really quite good. Let's just get it out. So what we've got is this, and this module, this is their flash module, and this one has the built-in power amplifier for the telemetry. So if you don't know, Express ELRS as standard will output about 17 milliwatts of power for telemetry. So your TX power from your TX to your receiver is whatever that can do, but the standard modules without an additional power amplifier are doing about 12.5 dB, 17 milliwatts. Okay, that's what they're doing. However, this module has an additional power amplifier for the RF output on telemetry, which is giving you 100, which is good to see. So you've got much higher power output from your telemetry, which is going to give you more range. So that's the nice thing on this module. As well, it does make a difference. It does make a difference, you know. So, and then overall, I have to say the quality of the module was very good. I'm not 100% happy with the quality of my camera, but I'm happy with the quality of the module. Soldering was good, no issues at all. Nothing whatsoever. And again, I'll also say the Namimno was very good as well. The Namimno was very, very good. It is very good. It really is. So, that's the thing on Express ELRS on that. Now, what I have also done this week while I'm talking on Express ELRS, and I'm going to answer some questions in a minute, guys. I am finishing up the reviews on the Happy model receivers. So just to give you an idea, you know I bought the EP1, which, let's just say, wasn't up to the standard I was hoping for. I had that one replaced, and the one I've had it replaced with, I'm 100% happy with. But Happy Model also reached out and sent me another 2 on top. They sent me an EP1 and an EP2. And what I will say is this, the second EP1 is again absolutely fantastic. However, the EP2 isn't, and it does have the odd issue. And what I'll do is I'll hop over to the microscope to show you guys. And I will just give you guys a bit of a sneak peek of what will come on the video, because I'll show you quickly what I've seen. I'm just going to mute and move the mic 1 second. Okay, so I've unmuted that now. I'm going to go on to the overhead, and I'm just going to show you guys what I mean on this. So let me just get the scope in the right position, because I haven't actually prepped for this, so I don't know. So this is one of the Happy models, the EP1. And just to show you guys, a couple of components not straight again, but overall this EP1 is good. There's no issues with the soldering at all. It all looks fine. It's got the proper regulator on it, and then spinning it this side, everything looks good. Everything is correct. And just note how clean the board is, okay? Just notice it has been clean. It does look good. Got the 52 megs oscillator, and everything is fine. This now is the EP2 that I was sent. Let me just get it under where it needs to be. And just notice how dirty this board is from a manufacturing point of view. So you can see around the filter, and if I just come out a bit, you can see all of the gunk and flux or whatever it is. And this board honestly doesn't look like it's been cleaned. You can see around there. Ignore that side of the chip because I've cleaned that, and I'll show you why I've cleaned that. But if I just focus that up so you guys can see, just look at the gunk around the chip, and the whole board just doesn't look like it's been cleaned. Just to compare again, right? That is the filter on this one. So you've got the filter there, and then that is the filter on the EP1. It's night and day. Honestly, it's night and day difference. It really is. Now, that isn't the only issue on this board. And this one again, and I've cleaned this side on purpose, and let me just adjust the microscope and zoom in. We have another pad that has barely soldered on the chipset. In fact, it's actually 2. This one here, you can see, this is so small, it's actually very hard to hold. Let me just get the angle right for you guys. There. Okay, so that one there is barely soldered. And that one there is soldered just a little bit more. But that one there, I can promise you, is hanging on by a tether. It really is. And again, if I just go down and zoom in under the microscope, it's just very dirty. It really is. I haven't touched this board. It's never been soldered, never been anything. But yeah, it's just, compared to the other one, a couple of components out of place again, but nothing spectacular. And I will just show you guys, if you've never seen a ceramic antenna up close, this is quite cool. Or not ceramic, but the onboard antenna. Okay, so here is the built-in antenna. Now, the material they use appears to be painted on. It doesn't go through the plastic, so if you look around, it's not in the plastic. It's not a ribbon on the surface, I don't think. It's like a paint. And it's a paint they wrap around the outside, and they must spray it on in a certain pattern. It must be like conductive paint on the built-in antenna. But it's quite cool to see. It really is. So what I will say is that the Happy model, there are still some question marks over the quality. However, I want to say something else on that, but I'm going to move the mic back. Okay, so to round up on them, I've had 3 EP1s and 1 EP2. Of the 3 EP1s, one was not manufactured properly. The other 2 are fine. 0 issues. Look absolutely fine. Couple of the components aren't straight in a few places. And on one of them, the QFN is slightly off to the side, a tiny amount. You can see it, the solder's stretched on the balls. It's on like an angle, but it's manufactured. It works fine. It's okay. However, that EP2, whilst I haven't tested it yet for functionality, that's the last thing I've got to do, does have 1 or 2 issues on the quality again. So I'm at about a 50-50 percentage rate. Now, it is very much worth mentioning that of all of the other receivers I've seen so far, they are all fine. But I only have a sample rate of 1. So I haven't done a sample rate more than that. What I think I will do, though, is I'm going to order in another one of the Flywoo ones, because the Flywoo one is really well made. I like the Flywoo. It was very good. And I'm probably going to order in another 1 or 2 BetaFPVs just to do another Fira comparison. What I would say on the Happy models is this. If you get a good one, it'll be fine. But there is no question on those very, very small receivers, there are some QC issues. Now, you could argue, is this because they're not testing them? Is this because they're not checking them before they go out? Or is it because they are literally that cheap, they will just ship them out, and the ones that work, the ones that don't, and they won't worry about it? It might simply be it's like that. Now, I'm not going to touch that one. I have no intention of doing any repairs on it. It is soldered on that pad. It does have conductivity. I've got no reason to make a change on that unless it doesn't work. They both have the correct regulators. They're all fine. The first one works absolutely fine, which is clean. I just haven't actually tested the second one yet, basically. So that's the situation. So that just puts you on the picture on the Happy models. Bruce, nothing wrong with conductive paint. I love the avant-garde component placement. It is a bit rough, Bruce, if I'm honest. Reflow time. Yeah, I probably won't touch that one. And the annoyance is, it is noticeably dirtier than the other 2. So it's like it hasn't gone through its cleaning cycle. It almost looks reworked. And I think someone just said that. Mad a clean sweep of his appearance this week. Yeah, that's a refurbished one wrong, Lawrence. It does look a little rough. It does look a little rough. It's a receiver for your Ranger. Yeah, it's... But then again, look, are you going to buy a $12 EP2 for a long-range aircraft with a built-in antenna? I doubt it. I doubt it. About the only complaints I can say on the other receivers, what is also noticeable on Express LRS is the receivers with a ceramic Wi-Fi antenna have substantially less range than the receivers with like the little wire sticking out the top. The wire ones are so much better. But that's just updating firmware. I've had no problems updating any of the firmware on any of mine. They've all been doing it. Now, I have got... good evening, Jake. How are you? Hope you're safe and well. I have got a couple of videos I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks on Express LRS. I'm going to be walking through them. I've got the receivers because I've been doing them one at a time. I've got the 2 to edit, which is the Namimno, and I've learned how to say the company's name. And these, and the BetaFPV. So there's 3 receiver videos to come up. I'm then going to be doing a video talking about receivers and what you need to look for when buying them. And then I want to do one on these TXs and start diving deeper into these outputs on these TXs and see how they behave. And I have less concern of how accurate the power meter is, more the relativity between them. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the power meter is wrong as such. As long as it's relative across all of them, we're okay. And that's the thing to take into account. So we're going to be talking about that as well. Now, as always, guys, if you have any questions, please do put them in the comment section. Really, that's the main bit of the stuff I wanted to cover from me tonight. If you've got any questions, now is the time to ask them. I have had some new stuff come in this week. I'll do a very quick mailbag in a minute. Action 2 full kit for FPV. What should I protect it? I know there's no lens replacement. I was surprised mine survived. It's there. I was surprised mine survived as well as it did in the crash. It's not got a mark on it. It's a tough one. The glass is a tough one. I would try and find a TPU case where you can put a ND in the front, a piece of ND glass even in the front. At least that will give you a level of protection. There's no guarantee you won't break a screen, but it will give you a level of protection. It is a very good camera, but it isn't perfect by any means. I am going to keep this one now for FPV. I made a decision that whilst I would love to go and buy a GoPro 10, it's a bit big for what I want one for. So this pretty much does what I need a camera to do from an image quality point of view. It just doesn't from the battery. But for the FPV quads, I don't do that much filming. I still think it's viable for FPV, not perfect. And actually, the video on this for the Horizon study goes live on Tuesday, where I talk about that as well. A good TPU cover, but try and get yourself something like a piece of ND filter glass you can put in the front. If you can get an ND in there, something that you can just help protect that initial glass. It wouldn't even be a bad idea to design a case where there's maybe a mil or 2 of TPU between this glass and the new one. So if it gets smashed, it's not back to back, if you get my meaning. I would like to see that. I would like to see that. So I do keep meaning to try and come up with one for it. Smash that as well. Yeah, may as well smash it. If you do buy it, make sure you get DJI's cover or wherever you get it from. That's what I would say. Make sure you get the protection cover. Really do recommend you get the protection cover. Highly. Now, something else I'm thinking of. Did you guys see, for those who also own 3D printers, did you see the Prusa XL this week? I'm going to put this up for those who haven't. This blew my tiny little mind. This blew my little mind. This thing just looks amazing. Yeah, I keep meaning to have a look at doing something with a distance. I think what it needs is a gap. I really should spend some time designing stuff and create an EC store, something like that for people. At least it'd be a good way of bringing in some income for the channel as well. I keep meaning to do a case just with a distance what you can slot an ND filter into. That I think would help. That would help. Now, for those who didn't see, this is just, for me, mind-blowing. For those who haven't seen, this is the new Prusa XL, which is coming next year, for those who are into their 3D printers. And this thing is just looking amazing. It really is. The build volume is incredible. Let's be realistic. But there's so many improvements on this. It just 14 by 14 by 14 inches over a foot of space. It is just looking, and this for me, this I want this on my printer. Fully automatic first layer calibration across the board, no live Z, no nothing. I want this on my Mark 3S. I want this on my Mark 3S. I want. All individual heat plates for expansion. Rather than one big one. Easily remove magnetic head, which is amazing. I have that on mine. Just look at that. Neck extruder, they've called that, which is some quite interesting stuff there. We're going to have to see how that pans out, because there can also be problems with some of the stuff they're showing, especially with brittle filaments, especially with the two rollers. If you're running brittle fit, the question will be is how often you get breakages on your filament and jams, because if it has a break here, it's going to want to go down there. So I do see some little concerns on one or two things here, but we're going to have to see how it behaves overall. But it is looking very interesting. Ability to swap out the entire hot end, which is very nice. We like that. Thermistor in the heat bed, a brake as well. Sorry, not the bed. And breakout board on the back, and it almost looks Prusa big boards as well. That, you know, they've taken things on a lot with this. They really have. I love this as well. Let's look at this. Network connectivity, yay! Linear bearings, rails, spool holders. So really, really, really looking forward. And it's got RGB. Yes, we have a printer that has RGB. And there's some real other impressive bits, and that is, this is the one more thing, which is the multiple tool heads for different color filaments or different types, and it can automatically swap between the tool heads. 5 independent separate tool heads. This is just going to be amazing. So much better than the MMU2 as well. This just looks fantastic. It isn't cheap. It really isn't cheap. I think it's quite a few $1,000s. But this toolless calibration is just fantastic. This is going to set the bar so much for others. It really is. Q2, Q3 2022. So that is awesome. If only it did pick and place as well, Bruce. Yeah, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Can't see Santa. It's not going to be cheap. In the UK price, what's it saying? Starts at, to be fair, mind, right? I will be honest, that isn't terrible. What I paid for my first 3D printer, that really isn't terrible. 2,100, 3,390 with 5 tool heads. Semi-assembled, 1,700 quid. Yeah, if I went for it, it would have to be the minimum of the 2 tool head model, if I'm honest, because I don't need the volume. So I don't need the volume on it. So if we change the price into US dollars, so single tool head, 2,400, 3,023, and then 4,200. I think if I ordered one, I'd have to go for the 2 extruder. I just wouldn't. It wouldn't be worth me upgrading to that size for a single extruder. But dual extruder, I've owned a dual extruder printer before, and it was a complete pain in the ass. But I I can't imagine it, but yeah, the 5 extruder is just fantastic. And it's going to be a good machine. It's going to be a good machine. Just look at the size difference from the Mark 3S. I just hope we get some of the features come across. I hope some of the stuff comes over to the Mark 3 as an upgrade. I would love that calibration. I would just die to have that. I really would. My Prusa is my favorite. It's amazing. I love that printer. You can see it there buried in the corner. Doesn't get that much use, actually. Which is about 19-20%. Yes. It makes a difference as well, type. It does make a big difference. So, guys, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the live chat. That is everything I've seen this week. If there's anything you've seen you want to talk about, please do put it in. From me this week is borrow one of those printers and print one for yourself. You basically could, Bruce. The videos going up this week is the FPV Horizon Steady. I am debating on selling my FPV drone. I've sat here and thought this week it needs to go. I just don't want to lose the V2 goggles. But I think I am going to sell the FPV drone very shortly. I just don't see any benefit to owning it now. I just don't see any benefit. There's some stuff I want to talk about, but I can't do it yet. I'm waiting to see what happens on something. But I will have a lot to say, which won't make me popular. Let's just say. I'm not saying with who, but it just won't make me popular. But I am waiting for something first of all to see what happens. And then I will talk about it. Have I heard any more about canvas mode? I have not, Geordie. Is it Jody? I think it's Geordie. Geordie or Jody, whichever. I can't quite see the chat. I'm sorry. No, I honestly... Okay, as I said in my video with regards to canvas mode, is I've said the truth about what happened. I am now at the stage of I do not believe it's going to happen. As far as I am concerned, both the DJI FPV drone... Okay, let me start this again, actually, because I'm going to clip this for the live stream. Sorry, guys, I want to do this again. So, canvas mode, Jody's... let me read his name. Geordie. I see Jody or Geordie. Geordie. My eyes are getting worse. I need a bigger monitor. So, the question's been asked. Canvas mode. And I'm going to mix this in with the DJI FPV drone as well, because I believe both are intertwined. Right now, I fundamentally believe personally that both the FPV system and the FPV drone are in their end-of-life mode, which is DJI continue to sell them, but they have no interest in supporting or developing moving forward. And they will now be at this stage where they will be sold as long as bits are available. And then you will see over time bits begin to become harder to get. And then eventually it will fade away. Now, we're in an unusual situation with FPV that DJI have put most of it out to third parties. They've never done this before. My opinion on that is because they don't want to do it themselves. I actually think the FPV almost got obsolete when the V1 goggles ran out, but after there was a load of kickback from the community, they rushed something out, and then that was the case. I also think the FPV drone from DJI is in that position right now as well, and I would not be buying it unless you have a very specific reason. If you want the product, that's fine, but understand the DJI FPV drone as it is today is probably how it's going to be forever. The chances are they are now either working on the version 2 or the project will be dumped and we will never see it again, and that will simply be based on sales numbers. We don't know how well the product is sold. We don't know how well it's done. All we know is DJI will either choose to make an upgraded version or they won't. If they did make an upgraded version, the chances are it would have many of the features we've got on this. Basically, that sensor, basically Rocksteady 2.0, better image quality, couple of extra features. But they will be evaluating if the product is worth doing that with, or they'll just continue to sell it and let it die slowly, and it'll be available for 2, 3, 4 years, and then it will fade away. Right now, though, I don't think it's in any form of development, and the FPV system is exactly the same. Now, with regards to canvas mode, it should be added that DJI have never said canvas mode is happening. Cadex were the ones that said it. I believe they said it to get the community off their back, based on a conversation with me, providing the information that I shared with you guys in that video. I basically was asked, do I have any information on canvas mode? I'm not saying they weren't looking at it already, but I passed them on to a dev who gave it to them. We've not heard any more since. I firmly believe today canvas mode won't happen, and the DJI system as we have it today is end of life for the most part. DJI will continue to sell bits of it until they decide they don't want to. That might be when the ASIC is no longer available, because you've got to take into account the FPV system is using the P1 ASIC. We believe the new Mavic 3 is also using that same ASIC. And if that's the case, then there's still some life in it. But if it is using a different ASIC, how long before DJI run out and no longer want to manufacture them anymore? Because there'll be a point where they will move on with that silicon into a new silicon, and they will have to then use what they've got, and then when it's gone, it's gone. They either then have to stump up a load of money for a foundry to go and make more, or they'll just move on to the next product, or may never make it again. But that isn't today. Today, we are seeing plenty of camera availability on DJI FPV. Air units are available, but don't expect that to be forever. And I will always say this is buy what you need for now, and buy what you need to keep yourself running for the next year or so. Don't overbuy, but don't leave yourself in a position where you don't have what you need. I don't think we will now see any updates for the FPV system other than something that's forced them to do it because of parts change or something like that. I think the FPV system is now end of life for all intents and purposes, and DJI have just pushed it out to the third parties with the cameras to let them get on with it. Yes, they still make the ear units, because remember, Cadex don't make the ear unit, Runcam don't make them, the Link, the Vista, it's all made by DJI, and that will continue as long as there's demand. But this is a tiny, tiny market for them. Tiny, tiny, tiny market. The question will be, do they want to take it forward? Now, there is a point that I will have to get to, as many of us will have to get to who talk about this stuff, where we will have to say, do not buy this product today. We're not there yet. I have said that before because of issues, but we're not there yet. We're not there at a stage where I think, oh my God, it could end in 2 weeks. But that day will come. There is an inevitability that there is a point where DJI will just leave it behind, because that is what they always do. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying they're evil for doing it, but history repeats itself, whether it be the Goggles RE and the OcuSync system. Remember, those who've seen that, I put a lot of content out on that product, yet it doesn't exist today. Whether it be Lightbridge 1, Lightbridge 2, when they move on, they move on. DJI don't look back very often at all. They deliver some of the highest advanced tech we get. But the downside to that, as smart controller users have found out, is that products often feature zero forward future proofing, and when they dump them, they dump them. And that's the thing. Today, I would still recommend DJI FPV to anyone. However, I would start to add the notice of, be aware this is now a few-year-old product and it may not be available forever. Get yourself a supply of what you need. If history repeats itself, there will be a point where this system will end and everyone will be scrapping over what receivers are left to get. That might not be in 1 year, that might not be in 2 years, that might not be in 3 years, but that is going to happen at some point. So make sure you've got what you need. Now, if you're going to ask me what is the long bet digital right now, frankly, it's HD0. The long bet digital for me is HD0 right now. And that is because Carl has taken the initiative over Fat Shark, who are frankly non-existent right now when it comes to it. But that is if you want to get into HDFPV. Controversially, I think TBS might try and spin their own thing. The next natural step for TBS is maybe going down their own road on a digital FPV system. I'm not convinced we'll see TBS get into this. I'm convinced we'll see TBS do something themselves. I reckon they might. Orca, as Bruce has just said, are meant to be launching something. There is a lot of argument. People are saying, I know Bruce doesn't agree with me on HD0, is already long in the tooth. Yeah, and I think there will be a change, but I think as a company, there's a future here. And I do feel there's a future. We're going to have to see what the 1 watt does, but I am more comfortable today saying this will still be here in 5 years than DJI is. Just because the DJI system is now 2.5 years plus old, it's inevitable. So that's the situation. Rumors are Orca are doing something. It's been rumored for ages Orca are doing something, but it isn't here yet. And then it's going to be compatible with Orca goggles only. We're just going to have to wait and see. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if TBS got into this. They could get involved with DiviMath. I don't see why they don't. Frankly, Trappy, I think, should do it. Just get on there and go for it. But if he doesn't, I think you're going to see them come up with something themselves. I think you might see Trappy do something interesting himself. Trappy is a very, very clever guy, and he hasn't got to where he is without being it, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. Look, Trappy's business model has always been, right now, their biggest business is RC control links and FPV, and they make some really nice integrated analog stuff with their receivers. Their next natural move is digital integrated with that. Now, is that HD0 or is that something else? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Yeah, I agree. If HD0 did a deal with SkyZone, I think what's holding a lot of manufacturers back than getting involved with HD0, they're just waiting to see where the cards land. And that's what I think it is. Tracky always have a... in a good way, not a creepy uncle kind of way. Yeah, Trappy be the one. I wouldn't be shocked if Trappy did something. I just wouldn't be shocked. No, but look, there's a lot of really powerful silicon around the corner. With the 5G network stuff, with all of this, the requirement for a custom ASIC is less of a thing as we see more and more move. And yes, latency is the problem, but that can be worked on, as we've seen HD0 do. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Does Trappy have the money to pay someone to do something interesting? That's the end. I'm not saying they got the talent in-house, but do they have the money for it? And I think the truth will be... there is a chip shortage. Yeah, and he could be holding back. DJI will probably drop the FPV system version 2. They may. The question mark is, okay, will there ever be a version 2 DJI FPV system? None of us can answer it. We can see what it's going to look like. We know what it will be like. The chances are it will be dual band, 2.4 and 5 gigs. It will most likely be 1080p resolution. Okay, so they'll get the resolution up to 1080p. And there'll be the new style remote controller and better quality cameras. Because it's really easy to see what DJI will do because they always do the same thing. You improve image quality, they improve range, they reuse some of their stuff they've already got. Look at the Mavic 3. So a official version 2 FPV system and not version 2 goggles will be 1080p in my opinion. Same low latency, longer range, new remote controller. The question will be, will it retain compatibility with the existing system at lower resolutions and fixed frequency? So, for instance, would you be able to continue to use your ear units? I suspect not, because that's DJI's usual motto. If they do it, that's what we'll get. But the question remains, will they do it? We don't know. I'm not convinced they will, simply because they're no longer controlling the cameras. If they were controlling camera manufacturing, although I will say that the current DJI FPV camera, the main one, is still made by them, in my opinion. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. Nothing is confirmed. Okay, guys. Catching up on the chat very quickly. 5G invented COVID, be more likely to strike a deal with Orca because they don't compete in marketplace. Very interesting, Bruce. And that could be why he's hanging back. Could Trappy do a deal with Orca? Leap of faith, the market must be stagnant. TBS will need funding and they should be a big one to prepare for this, of course. Shout out. I would be very surprised if they put out a second setup after the flop with the first one. If Trappy sold his TBS lettuce and Bitcoin goes up, he'll have the money. Could Trappy be the one to bring back analog HD? Don't forget about that option. Trappy has resources all over the world. I have a feeling he could put some money together. Yeah, I think if anyone could, Trappy could. How durable are the Vistas? Do you think you should buy more than one? They're fine as long as you don't short. Just what I would say on all of the ear units is make sure you're running a VTX spike absorber. 100% make sure you're running a VTX spike absorber. They should. We've seen no real failures outside of crashes and ripping. The only real downside to the Vista is ripping the UFL off the antenna. That's very common. If Sony starts selling their drone, they could offer FPV. I think it's just really hard to do low latency FPV. That's the big problem. That's the big. Adult HE requires special silicon. I looked into it. Yeah, they're not small jelly bean IC. That's the. Yeah, I know, Bruce. I know you looked heavily. Could not be over though, couldn't it? If so, they got someone on board. I do think HT0 is probably where the future of HD FPV is, unless DJI do something. What you just don't know is how important it is to DJI. This is the problem with DJI. They don't give you any hints. They don't, they are not communicating on the FPV system. So all we can do is make assumptions that it's dead because they don't talk about it. They don't release firmware. They don't do anything. That's it. They don't tell us anything. I'm wondering if running a TVS. Yeah, well, that's what the spike absorber is. So run a TVS diode is a highly recommended thing. The spike absorber is 3 TVS diodes. That's all it is if you haven't seen it from FetTech. You definitely would run a spike absorber or TVS diodes. Leo, it is inevitable at some point. FPV is just a passing fab. I'm going back to my pet rock. That's it. Right, guys, I'm going to finish this stream up. If DJI is moving ahead, well, what will be a hint on one thing is if the Mavic 3, as I believe it is still using the P1, that silicon isn't dead yet. DJI will dump us eventually. It's inevitable. They've done it before. You only have to look at history. OcuSync ear system. Go find yourself that. Can you buy an ear unit? Can you buy the goggles? Can you buy any part of it? No. Everything DJI do is about moving forward, not back. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying they're a bad company for doing that. You just have to understand that as part of when you buy your product, that they will not be making it in 5 years' time, and you may not be able to get bits for it. How's my graphics card doing? My 3080 is fantastic. Thank you very much, Shady. It is doing really, really well. OLED screens, possibly. Yeah, 1080p OLED. Maybe, but they've never... Yeah, maybe. But DJI always do something you don't like, so I reckon it'll be 1080p LCD, not 1080p OLED. Hello, Sean. How are you? I hope you are well. For those who didn't see, Sean put out a very good video, not because I was in it, because he is fantastic on Tuesday. When did it go live, Sean? Yesterday or the day before? I'm forgetting because when we recorded it. The other day on the DJI FPV remote, I'm going to share it on my community page in a minute, actually, as well. I've got my live stream cut of that going up, which I did 2 weeks ago. But Sean's video is really good because he had the guy on there from DJI, so do check it out. And I'm going to stick it on the community page in a minute too. Yeah, please do check it out on Geeks Varna's page. It was definitely one of the days of the week. It feels like that, doesn't it, mate? It was flow state edited. It's off the flow state edited by Falconrad FPV vid. It's off the hook. What do you mean by that, Madman X? Has it been leaked? Flow state. I hope not. How long do I think the Vistas will be available? I don't see anything changing in the next 12 months. I honestly don't see anything changing in the next 12 months. But who knows? No one knows. No one knows at all. Edited. Yeah. Edited fucking right. Yes. They stop producing, then they sell out. Yeah. And that's the thing. I need to get a few more of the... I need to get a few cameras myself. I do need to stock up. So, on the other hand, function doesn't... No, but they're just not communicating. Okay, here's a question. Where is Fat Shark right now? Someone answer me that. So, we have zero communication. No new products. There's not even a manual for these goggles. Where are they? Where are Fat Shark right now in FPV? They're just not talking to anyone. They're not doing anything. Carl at DiviMath is the one who is pushing HD0 on. In fact, I have already said I will no longer call this system actively Sharkbite because they're not doing anything. They're not talking about it. They're not promoting it. They're not helping the community. They're not talking about it in any way. Yes, they manufacture these and they manufacture the goggles unit, apparently. But where are they? What are they doing? They're not answering. They are answering support questions. People are getting support, but it took so long time. It took me 2 weeks to get a reply when I asked about this. So, where are they right now? Everyone, love or hate Fat Shark, they're a big player in FPV. Yet, since the purchase by Red Cat, they are close to non-existent. Will there be a replacement for HDO2s? Will there be a proper set of digital goggles from them? Because right now it doesn't look like it. It really doesn't look like it. Carl, as rightly said, has had to go off and make the HD0. And here's a hint, right? Let me show you something. There it is. So here's the original boxing for Sharkbite stuff. Can you see that? It says Sharkbite. Now it's HD0. Oh, let's get it right. So now HD0 have done all their own marketing as well, look. It's the same box, but it's the HD0 marketing. So, HD0 are what are pushing this. Where are Fat Shark? What are they doing? Are we going to see a new set of goggles? Are we going to see a set of digital goggles with HD0 built in? Where is the development? Where's the bloody manual for these goggles? It's bizarre. It makes no sense at all. Fat Shark, we'd love to hear from you. We would love to have a message from the community to the community saying, hey, we still exist. Don't worry, we're working on some cool stuff. Why don't you talk to the community a little bit and say something? We know how DJI operate. We know how DJI work. They don't do talking. Only when there's a product to talk. But Fat Shark used to be a small company. We know they've been bought by Red Cat. Why not talk to us? Why not tell the community what you're doing and give us a bit of faith in buying products? Because I'm not really sure I would recommend buying a set of Fat Shark goggles right now. to anyone, because are they still going to be here in 6 weeks, 7 weeks? As Bobby Bag said, they used to release a weekly update. Where's that gone? There's nothing. Right now, if you're looking to get yourself a set of high-end FPV goggles, get the Skyzone 04Xs. 100%. I would not be 100% comfortable recommending anyone buys Fat Sharks right now until we understand what's going on with the company. Because why invest in something that you don't know what's going to happen? It seems bizarre. It seems utterly, utterly strange. You know, the last set of goggles they released, they haven't even made a manual for. I know I've said that sometimes, but that tells you a lot. There's no manual for these on their website. The firmware page is months out of date. They haven't updated anything for months with regards to Sharkbite or HT0. Everything has just fallen to the wayside. Is it now just a money printing machine for Red Cats spewing out dollars and they don't care about the community? Because that's how it feels. So please, if you're watching this, Fat Shark, come talk to us. Let us know what's going on. Right. That's it from me, guys. That's my little rant over. The signal, I'm still just awake. Hi, Ramdonko. How are you doing? I'd like to thank everyone for spending some time with me again on a Sunday night. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have and you're new here, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the little bell as well. If you'd like to support us, there are links to our Patreon as well as Buy Me a Coffee too. I'm just going to let that go on. There we go. Furthermore, if you'd like to see anything else on the channel, there are links to that too. Don't forget, I have a Discord server. Check it out. Hit the button. Come over. Say hi. Stay safe. And I will speak to you guys again soon. Now I've got to go and find the button to end the stream. Where's it gone? There it is. Look after yourself, guys. I'll speak to you guys again soon.